On a sunny spring afternoon in 1945, Albert Einstein was strolling through the campus of Princeton University, enjoying a rare moment of tranquility. World War II was coming to an end, and although physics remained his great passion, his mind was absorbed in thoughts about the future of humanity. As he walked, Einstein came across an old library he didn't remember seeing before. Intrigued by its mysterious and archaic appearance, he decided to enter. As he opened the door, a soft tinkling of bells announced his arrival. The library was immersed in a pleasant twilight, illuminated only by the light filtering through the stained glass windows. An elderly librarian with sharp eyes and a serene countenance greeted him with a nod. "Good afternoon, Mr. Einstein. Welcome to the Library of Forgotten Times." Einstein, surprised that she knew his name, responded politely, "Good afternoon. I don't recall seeing this library before. Is it new?" The old woman smiled enigmatically. "No, sir. This library has been here since time immemorial. It only appears to those who have deep questions about time and the universe." Intrigued, Einstein decided to explore the aisles filled with ancient books. He stopped at a particularly old and dusty volume titled The Secret of Time. As he opened it, he found pages filled with equations and diagrams that seemed familiar but much more advanced than anything he had seen before. Suddenly, a soft murmur filled the room. The words in the book began to glow, and a strange magnetic field enveloped Einstein. He felt an inexplicable pull and, in the blink of an eye, found himself in a completely different time and place. He was in a bustling city full of futuristic technology, where buildings touched the sky and flying vehicles soared through the air. A young, nervous-looking man approached him. "Professor Einstein, you have finally arrived. We have been waiting for you." Einstein, still dazed by the sudden change, managed to stammer a question. "Where am I? What is this place?" The man smiled with admiration. "You are in the year 2145. And you are the key to solving a riddle that has puzzled scientists for centuries. The true control of time." Before Einstein could formulate a response, a loud roar echoed in the distance, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. The man looked at Einstein urgently. "There's no time to lose. We must reach the lab before they find us." Einstein felt a mix of fear and excitement as he followed the man through the streets of that futuristic city. He knew he was about to embark on an adventure that could forever change his understanding of the universe and time itself. But who were they? And what exactly was Einstein destined to discover in this distant future? ****. The story will remain in suspense, with Albert Einstein about to face a mystery that transcends the boundaries of time. Einstein and his guide navigated the streets of the futuristic city, dodging flying vehicles and crowds of people who seemed oblivious to the impending chaos. As they advanced, Einstein couldn't help but marvel at the impressive technology and societal development in the year 2145. However, his mind was also filled with urgent questions about the current situation. Who are they, and why are they chasing us? Einstein asked as they hurried toward the mysterious laboratory. The man cast a worried glance backward before responding. They are the custodians of time, an organization that controls and regulates the flow of time. They believe their control is absolute and that any alteration could destroy the fabric of the universe. But their methods are oppressive and have stifled any progress in understanding time. Einstein absorbed the information, aware of the gravity of the situation. And why me? Why am I the key to solving this enigma? Because you, Professor Einstein, are the only one who has understood the relativity of time in a way that defies their rules. Your theories and equations contain clues that, once developed and applied with our technology, can free humanity from their control. They reached a discreet building and quickly entered. The interior was a striking contrast to the exterior modernity. It was filled with advanced scientific equipment mixed with ancient books and manuscripts. A group of scientists and technicians greeted them with enthusiasm and relief. "Professor Einstein, it's an honor to have you here," said a young scientist, extending her hand. "I am Dr. Elena Martínez, the leader of this project. We have been studying your works and believe that together we can decipher the secret of time." Einstein greeted Dr. Martínez, impressed by her passion and dedication. "I am willing to help as much as I can. But first, I need to understand more about what you have discovered and how you plan to use my work." Dr. Martínez nodded and led him to a table filled with blueprints, equations, and holographic diagrams. "We have discovered that your theories on relativity and the curvature of space-time are just the beginning. With our technology, we have developed a device that can manipulate time at a quantum level. But to make it work without causing catastrophic damage, we need your knowledge to stabilize it." Einstein studied the blueprints and began to grasp the magnitude of the challenge. "It's fascinating. But if the custodians of time are so powerful, how do you plan to stop them and prevent them from interfering with our work?" Before Dr. Martínez could respond, a rumble shook the building. Alarms started to blare, and a voice over the intercom alerted, "They are here. The custodians of time have found our location." Einstein looked around, seeing the determination in the faces of the scientists. He knew that the fate of the future was at stake and that, once again, he had to face the unknown in the name of progress and knowledge. The battle for control of time was about to begin, and with it, the possibility of redefining the future of humanity. The building vibrated with the intensity of the custodians of time's attacks. Einstein, along with Dr. Martínez and the team of scientists, rushed to secure the laboratory. The lights flickered, and the sound of explosions outside grew louder. "Quickly, everyone to your stations," ordered Dr. Martínez. "Professor Einstein, we need your help to stabilize the device." The team spread out across the laboratory, adjusting controls and checking connections. Dr. Martínez led Einstein to a central console, where a complex futuristic-looking device was arranged. It was a transparent cylinder filled with pulsating energy, surrounded by sensors and control panels. "This is the chronostabilizer," Dr. Martínez explained. "It can manipulate the flow of time, but its use requires extreme precision to avoid disastrous consequences." Einstein examined the device with fascination. "Your equations are based on my theory of relativity, but I also see elements of quantum physics that were unknown in my time. It's a delicate balance." "Exactly," Dr. Martínez nodded. "The custodians of time want to destroy it because they fear we could use it to change history. But our goal is nobler. We want to free ourselves from their control and allow humanity to explore time without restrictions." As they worked frantically, the laboratory doors burst open, and a group of hooded figures stormed into the room. The custodians of time had arrived. Armed with devices emitting blue flashes of light, they advanced toward the center of the laboratory. "Stop!" shouted one of the custodians. "This experiment is an abomination against the natural order. You must cease immediately or face the consequences." The tension in the air was palpable. Einstein, undeterred, stepped forward. "What you call an abomination we call progress. Science cannot be contained by fear." The leader of the custodians advanced, revealing a stern, aged face. "Professor Einstein, you do not understand the implications of what you are doing. Time is not a toy. Nor is it a prison," Dr. Martínez retorted firmly. "We have the right to understand it and use it for the good of humanity." A flash of blue light streaked across the room, striking a console and causing a small explosion. The scientists scattered, seeking refuge behind the machines. Einstein felt a chill run down his spine. He knew they had to act quickly. "We have to activate the chronostabilizer now," urged Dr. Martínez. "It's our only hope." Einstein nodded and, with trembling yet determined hands, began inputting the necessary equations into the system. The energy within the cylinder began to glow more intensely, emitting a deep hum that resonated throughout the laboratory. The custodians advanced, attempting to sabotage the process, but the team of scientists bravely defended their positions. A beam of blue energy struck near Einstein, but he remained focused on his task, adjusting parameters and verifying calculations. Finally, the chronostabilizer reached its critical point. Dr. Martínez looked at Einstein and shouted above the noise, "Now, Professor, activate the device." With one final adjustment, Einstein pressed the button. The chronostabilizer powered up with a blinding flash, enveloping the room in pure white light. Time seemed to freeze, suspending everyone in place as the device worked in harmony with the laws of the universe. In that moment, Einstein felt a profound connection with the flow of time, an understanding that went beyond any theory or equation. The future of humanity hinged on this crucial moment, and he was at the epicenter of a monumental change. The light began to fade, and reality started to stabilize again. But something had changed, something fundamental and deep. Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and the rest of the team looked around, knowing that the true impact of their action was about to be revealed. The battle for time was not over, but a new era of discoveries was about to begin. As the light faded and reality stabilized, Einstein and Dr. Martínez eagerly observed the first results of the chronostabilizer. The custodians of time, disoriented and confused, tried to regroup, but something had shifted in the atmosphere. The laboratory seemed more vibrant, and the electronic devices displayed readings they had never recorded before. Einstein approached the console to analyze the data. "It appears we have managed to stabilize the temporal flow, but I need to confirm that we haven't caused any collateral damage." Dr. Martínez nodded, checking her own monitors. "The energy levels are within expected parameters." "We've done it, Professor." Suddenly, the leader of the custodians of time stepped forward. His stern face softened by a mix of awe and respect. "I don't understand how, but you have achieved the impossible. You have altered the flow of time without destroying it." Einstein looked at him calmly. "Time is a dimension like space. It is not something to be feared, but something to be understood. Now perhaps we can work together to explore its secrets." The custodian leader hesitated, but before he could respond, an unexpected figure appeared at the entrance of the laboratory. It was a middle-aged man, dressed in elegant clothes with an aura of authority. His face reflected a mix of wisdom and determination. "Professor Einstein, Dr. Martínez, custodians of time," he said in a deep, resonant voice. "My name is Alexander Harrington, President of the Temporal Council. I have come to offer a peaceful solution." The tension in the laboratory eased as everyone listened intently. Harrington continued, "We have observed your efforts and understand that absolute control of time is an immense responsibility. But we also recognize that your research can lead us to a new understanding and responsible use of time." Einstein stepped forward, intrigued. "What do you propose, Mr. Harrington?" "A collaboration," Harrington replied. "We will create a joint committee between your scientists and our custodians to investigate time in a safe and ethical manner. We must ensure that the knowledge and tools you develop are not used for malevolent purposes." Dr. Martínez exchanged a look with Einstein, seeing the possibility of a future where knowledge and responsibility walked hand in hand. "I agree," she said finally. "But we need assurances that our work will not be co-opted by oppressive interests." Harrington nodded solemnly. "You have my word. Together, we will unlock the secrets of time for the benefit of all humanity." And so, in that moment of alliance, a new chapter in the understanding of time began, with Einstein and the team at the forefront, paving the way for discoveries that would shape the future in ways they had only dreamed of. Harrington nodded. "Under my supervision, I guarantee that your research will remain free and directed towards the common good. We must learn from time to improve our present and future." Einstein observed the custodians, seeing a mixture of relief and resignation in their faces. "Knowledge is the key to all progress. If we work together, we can ensure that time becomes an ally, not an enemy." With this provisional agreement, the laboratory became a symbol of a new era of cooperation and discovery. The custodians of time joined the scientists in exploring temporal mysteries, while Harrington oversaw the integration of their efforts. The following days were filled with breakthroughs and discoveries. Einstein, with his brilliant mind and ability to see beyond the obvious, became a central figure in this new alliance. Dr. Martínez and her team, along with the custodians, began unraveling secrets that previously seemed unreachable. However, not everything was resolved. In the shadows, unknown forces watched the group's progress with keen interest, waiting for the opportune moment to intervene. Questions about the true implications of the chronostabilizer and the limits of time remained unanswered. And as the team delved into increasingly complex territories, the sense that something monumental was about to happen grew day by day. Einstein felt that his mission was not yet complete, and he knew the true test was still to come. Days turned into weeks, and the laboratory buzzed with activity and discoveries. Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and the custodians of time worked together in a collaboration that, though initially fragile, began to solidify into a promising alliance. Einstein's equations and theories, combined with future advanced technology, led to surprising advancements in understanding temporal flow. One day, as Einstein reviewed some calculations, Dr. Martínez approached him with a worried look. "Professor, we've detected some anomalies in the temporal flow. There are fluctuations we can't explain, and they seem to be increasing." Einstein frowned, reviewing the data she showed him. "This is strange. These fluctuations don't match anything we've done. Could it be external interference?"
Dr. Martínez nodded slowly.
"It's possible. But if that's the case, we need to find out who or what is causing these disturbances before they get out of control." Before they could continue, the laboratory door burst open, and Harrington entered, followed by a group of scientists and custodians. His expression was grave. "We have a problem," he announced. "We've intercepted communications from a dissident faction, the Temporal Collective, which is trying to manipulate time for their own ends." Einstein's heart raced. "What are they trying to achieve?" "Absolute control of the past and future," Harrington replied. "They believe they can rewrite history to create a world in their image. If they succeed, the consequences could be catastrophic." Dr. Martínez spoke up. "Do we know where they're operating?" "Yes," Harrington said, displaying a holographic map. "They have a hidden base in a remote region where the temporal fluctuations are most intense. We must act quickly." Einstein felt the urgency of the situation. "We need to stop them, but we also need to understand how they're generating these fluctuations. It might be our only chance to prevent a temporal disaster." A team of scientists and custodians quickly organized. Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and Harrington led the expedition to the Temporal Collective's base. Equipped with advanced devices and a portable chronostabilizer, they ventured into unknown territory. The journey was tense and dangerous. As they approached the base, the temporal fluctuations grew more intense. Einstein watched as landscapes changed from one moment to the next, showing glimpses of the past and future in a blink. It was a reminder of how fragile the fabric of time was. Finally, they arrived at the entrance of a hidden cave. Harrington ordered his team to spread out and secure the area. "We must be cautious. We don't know what kind of defenses they have." Einstein's heart raced. "What are they trying to achieve?" "Absolute control of the past and future," Harrington replied. "They believe they can rewrite history to create a world in their image. If they succeed, the consequences could be catastrophic." Dr. Martínez spoke up. "Do we know where they're operating?" "Yes," Harrington said, displaying a holographic map. "They have a hidden base in a remote region where the temporal fluctuations are most intense. We must act quickly." Einstein felt the urgency of the situation. "We need to stop them, but we also need to understand how they're generating these fluctuations. It might be our only chance to prevent a temporal disaster." A team of scientists and custodians quickly organized. Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and Harrington led the expedition to the Temporal Collective's base. Equipped with advanced devices and a portable chronostabilizer, they ventured into unknown territory. The journey was tense and dangerous. As they approached the base, The temporal fluctuations grew more intense. Einstein watched as landscapes changed from one moment to the next, showing glimpses of the past and future in a blink. It was a reminder of how fragile the fabric of time was. Finally, they arrived at the entrance of a hidden cave. Harrington ordered his team to spread out and secure the area. "We must be cautious. We don't know what kind of defenses they have." Einstein and Dr. Martínez entered the cave, followed closely by Harrington and two custodians. The cave's interior was illuminated by a bluish light emanating from temporal crystals, pulsing with energy. At the far end, a metallic structure stood, clearly an advanced installation of the Temporal Collective. "There it is," whispered Dr. Martínez. "We need to disable it." Before they could move, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a stern-looking man with a cold smile on his lips. "Welcome to my domain, Professor Einstein. I am Dr. Tempus, leader of the Temporal Collective. You have arrived just in time to witness the birth of a new era." Einstein stood firm. "Dr. Tempus, what you're doing is dangerous. You could destroy the very fabric of the universe." Tempus laughed. "You do not understand, Einstein. Time is a tool and I have the knowledge and will to use it. With my machine, I will rewrite history and create a perfect world." Einstein stepped forward. "A perfect world according to whose standards? Manipulating time to suit your vision is not progress. It's tyranny." Tempus's smile faded. "You are short-sighted, Professor. The current timeline is filled with chaos and suffering. With my control, I can eliminate that. Imagine a world without war, without poverty, without disease." Dr. Martínez spoke up. "And what about free will? What about the natural course of human development? You can't just play God." Tempus glared at her. "Free will has led to countless atrocities. It's time for a new order, one where I can guide humanity to true enlightenment." Einstein shook his head. "True progress comes from understanding and collaboration, not from dictatorial control. We must find another way." Tempus raised a device, and the temporal crystals around them began to pulse more intensely. "I'm afraid it's too late for that, Einstein. The process has already begun." As the crystal's light grew brighter, Einstein knew they had to act fast. He turned to Dr. Martínez and Harrington. "We need to destabilize the machine. It's our only chance." Harrington nodded, rallying the custodians and scientists. "Everyone follow Einstein's lead. We must stop Tempus before it's too late." A tense and urgent battle ensued. With precision and determination, Einstein and his team worked to dismantle Tempus's device. The air was thick with the hum of energy and the tension of the moment. Tempus tried to stop them, but the combined efforts of the scientists and custodians overwhelmed his defenses. In a climactic moment, Einstein and Dr. Martínez managed to deactivate the core of the machine. The temporal crystals dimmed, and the cave fell silent. Tempus, realizing his defeat, collapsed to his knees. His dreams of control shattered. Einstein approached him, offering a hand. "It's not too late to work together for a better future, Tempus. We can use our knowledge to help humanity without imposing our will upon it." Tempus looked up, defeated but not entirely broken. Perhaps there is another way." With the crisis averted, the team returned to the laboratory, where they continued their research with a renewed sense of purpose and cooperation. The threat of the Temporal Collective had been neutralized, but the journey of understanding time had only just begun. Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and their allies knew that they had to remain vigilant. The future was still unwritten, and with their newfound knowledge, they were more prepared than ever to shape it wisely and ethically. The laboratory thrived as a beacon of progress, with scientists and custodians working side by side. Together, they embarked on a path that would lead to unprecedented discoveries and a deeper understanding of the intricate dance of time. Dr. Martínez stepped forward. "We will not allow you to play with the fate of humanity. We will stop your madness." Tempus took out a small device and activated it. Suddenly, the cave filled with temporal soldiers, ethereal figures that seemed to float between different eras. Go ahead, try to stop me. You will see how futile it is to resist. Einstein looked around, aware of the magnitude of the challenge they faced. He knew the true battle for control of time had just begun, with the future of humanity hanging by a thread. He had to find a way to stop Tempest and save the temporal flow. Einstein and his group found themselves surrounded by the temporal soldiers, ethereal figures that seemed to blur between different epochs. Each soldier seemed capable of moving through time with alarming ease, and their vacant stares indicated unwavering loyalty to Tempest. Einstein took a deep breath, feeling the tension in the air. Dr. Tempest, do not underestimate the power of collaboration and humanity's will to preserve its history. Tempest smirked disdainfully. History needs to be rewritten, Einstein, and you will witness how I achieve it. Dr. Martínez turned to Einstein, whispering, "We need to deactivate Tempest's temporal machine. It is the source of these fluctuations and his control over time." Einstein nodded, observing the metallic structure at the back of the cave. "We need to find a way to reach it. The key might be in its power source." Harrington, staying defensive, added, "We need to act quickly. We cannot allow Tempest to complete his plan." The temporal soldiers began to advance, their movements fluid and synchronized. Einstein, Martínez, and Harrington prepared to defend themselves, aware they were facing an enemy who could anticipate their moves. Suddenly, one of the custodians, a man named Elias, stepped forward with determination. "I will distract them. You must reach the machine." Einstein tried to protest, but Elias had already launched himself at the soldiers, creating enough of a distraction for the group to move towards the temporal machine. With agility and speed, they dodged the soldiers' attacks and approached the structure. Tempest, seeing their advance, shouted furiously, "I will not let you ruin my work." The controls of the temporal machine glowed with a pulsating light. Einstein and Dr. Martínez began to work frantically, inputting codes and equations to try and deactivate the device. Harrington covered them, facing off against the soldiers attempting to stop them. "The fluctuations are increasing," warned Martínez. "If we don't stabilize the core, it could cause an irreversible temporal rupture." Einstein, with his prodigious mind, reviewed the calculations in real time. "We need to reverse the polarity of the temporal core. It's the only way to neutralize its energy without causing a collapse." As they worked, Tempest approached, enraged and desperate. "You don't understand. The power of time belongs to me." Before he could intervene, a wave of energy emanated from the machine, pushing everyone back. Einstein and Martínez clung to the console, struggling to maintain control. Harrington, dazed but determined, rose to face Tempest. "This ends now, Tempest," Harrington declared, advancing with resolution. Tempest, with a look of madness in his eyes, responded, "Never. Time is my domain." At the last moment, Einstein managed to input the final command. The temporal machine began to emit an intense white light, and the hum of energy filled the cave. Time seemed to slow down, each second stretching endlessly. Suddenly, a blinding flash enveloped the laboratory. When the light dissipated, the temporal soldiers had disappeared, and Tempest lay unconscious on the ground. The temporal machine had stopped, its energy neutralized. Einstein and Dr. Martínez looked at each other, exhausted but relieved. "We did it," Martínez whispered, letting out a sigh of relief. Harrington approached, helping Einstein to his feet. "We have stopped Tempest, but the temporal equilibrium remains fragile. We will need to work together to ensure something like this never happens again." Einstein nodded, aware of the magnitude of the task that still lay ahead. Time is a constant flow, always in motion. We must protect it and learn from it, not dominate it. As they left the cave, the sense of achievement mixed with the awareness that their mission was far from over. The discovery of time had opened a door to a vast and unexplored field of knowledge, and Einstein knew he was destined to continue his journey through the mysteries of the universe, always seeking to understand and protect the very essence of time. With Tempest neutralized and the temporal machine deactivated, the group returned to the central laboratory, where a team of scientists and custodians was already working to assess the aftermath of the temporal fluctuations. The tension in the air had decreased, but the urgency of the mission was still palpable. Einstein met with Dr. Martínez and Harrington in an improvised conference room. The monitors displayed graphs and real-time data, analyzing the repercussions of their recent actions. The fluctuations have decreased significantly, reported Martínez. But there are still instabilities in certain points of the temporal flow. We need to stabilize them before they cause greater damage. Einstein studied the data, his mind working at full speed. We can use the chronostabilizer to create anchor points in time. These points will stabilize the temporal flow and prevent the instabilities from spreading. Harrington nodded, appreciating the clarity of the plan. Then we must act quickly. We'll form teams to install these anchors in the critical areas. As the teams prepared for the new mission, Einstein took a moment to reflect on the recent events. Despite the challenges, there was a sense of hope and purpose in the air. He knew his work was far from over, but he also knew he was not alone in this fight. A few days later, Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and a group of custodians set out for the first anchor point. It was a remote location in the Swiss Alps, a region known for its mysterious temporal fluctuations. Upon arrival, the impressive landscape reminded them of nature's majesty and the power of time. "This is the place," said Dr. Martínez, checking the anchoring device. "We must ensure the anchor is placed precisely to stabilize this area." Einstein and the custodians began working, carefully installing the anchor. As they adjusted the parameters, a slight vibration ran through the ground, indicating that the device was activating. Suddenly, a figure appeared among the mountains. It was an ethereal woman, dressed in ancient clothes, but with a presence that seemed to transcend time. "I am Aurora, guardian of the temporal flow," she said with a melodious voice. "I have observed your efforts and see that you seek to protect time." Einstein and Dr. Martínez looked at each other, surprised but fascinated. "Yes, we have faced many challenges to get here," replied Martínez. "Our goal is to stabilize the temporal flow and prevent it from being manipulated." Aurora nodded, her gaze deep and understanding. "Time is a delicate fabric, intertwined with life itself. Your work is noble, but you must be prepared to face forces beyond your comprehension." Einstein stepped forward. "We are willing to learn and protect time. Can you help us understand better what we are facing?" Aurora smiled, and a flash of wisdom shone in her eyes. "There are secrets of time you have not yet discovered, ancient and powerful forces that influence its flow. I will show you a vision of what can be and what must be avoided." With a gentle gesture, Aurora raised her hand, and a golden light enveloped Einstein and Martínez. In an instant, they found themselves in a vast, timeless space, where fragments of different eras floated around them, showing them possible futures and alternative pasts. Einstein watched in awe. "This is incredible. Each fragment represents a possibility, a variation of the temporal flow." Aurora nodded. "Indeed. Every action you take, every decision you make, influences the fabric of time. You must be careful and wise in your mission." Back in the Alps, the vision began to fade. Aurora looked at Einstein and Martínez with a mix of hope and warning. "Time has given you an important mission. Protect the flow, but remember there is always more to learn. The true understanding of time is a never-ending journey." With those words, Aurora disappeared, leaving Einstein and Martínez with renewed determination and a deeper sense of their mission. They knew the instabilities in time were just a part of a more complex tapestry, and that their journey to protect the temporal flow was only beginning. Upon returning to the lab, they shared their experiences with Harrington and the rest of the team. Together, they continued their work, installing anchors and studying the fluctuations, with the conviction that each step brought them closer to truly understanding and protecting time. The mission extended across eras and places, facing unexpected challenges and uncovering hidden secrets of time. And as Einstein delved deeper into the mystery of the temporal flow, he knew that humanity's fate depended on his ability to balance the past, present, and future, always vigilant and always learning. Days turned into weeks as Einstein, Dr. Martínez, Harrington, and their team continued installing temporal anchors at various critical points around the world. Each location presented its own challenges, but with each success, the stability of the temporal flow improved gradually. On one occasion, the team found themselves in the heart of a dense Amazon jungle, where time seemed to move with a distinct, almost mystical cadence. The air was heavy with humidity, and the calls of exotic birds echoed around them. Here, the temporal anchors would be essential to prevent fluctuations from affecting the delicate ecosystem. "This place is incredible," said Dr. Martínez as they moved through the lush vegetation. "The fluctuations here are less intense but more erratic. We need to be precise." Einstein nodded, observing the interaction between the natural elements and the temporal flow. "It's as if nature itself is in tune with time in a way we don't fully understand. We must proceed with caution." The team worked in silence, aware of the fragility of the environment. When they finally activated the anchor, a sense of calm spread through the jungle, as if nature itself had recognized and accepted their effort. As they prepared to leave, an elderly indigenous woman appeared before them, accompanied by a young guide. Her presence was imposing, and her gaze reflected deep wisdom. "I am Kyra, the guardian of this sacred place," said the elder. "Time here is a spirit that flows with life. I have sensed your arrival and your intention to protect it." Einstein bowed respectfully. "We are honored by your presence, Kyra. Our goal is to preserve the balance of time so that all beings can thrive." Kyra smiled, nodding. "What you are doing is noble, but remember that time is not something to be controlled, but understood and respected. I will show you something that will help you in your mission." The elder led them to a nearby cave, hidden among the vegetation. Inside, the walls were covered with ancient paintings that told stories of past and future times. Kyra stopped in front of one of the largest paintings, which depicted a temporal vortex surrounded by human figures. "This is the prophecy of the eternal time," Kyra explained. "It speaks of those who will come to stabilize the temporal flow, but also warns of a shadow that seeks to unbalance it." Einstein studied the painting with interest. "Does the shadow represent Tempest and his collective?" Kyra nodded. "It might, but the prophecy is ambiguous. The shadow could be any force seeking to manipulate time for its own ends. You must be prepared to face it, whatever form it takes." Dr. Martínez looked at Einstein with determination. "This reinforces the importance of our work. We must continue and be vigilant for any threat." Kyra gave them a talisman made of an ancient stone, engraved with symbols representing the flow of time. "Take it with you. It will give you strength and clarity in your mission." With profound gratitude, the team left the cave, carrying not only the talisman but also a deeper understanding of their responsibility. Each anchor, each interaction, and each discovery brought them closer to the true essence of time. Back at the laboratory, the mission reports were encouraging. The temporal flow was stabilizing, but Kyra's warning echoed in their minds. The shadow was still there, lurking in the corners of time, and they had to stay vigilant. One day, while Einstein was working on new equations to improve the anchors, he received an urgent call from Harrington. "We have troubling news," Harrington said. "Unusual activities have been detected near Tempest's old base. We believe the Temporal Collective might be regrouping." Einstein frowned, aware of the gravity of the situation. "We must investigate immediately. We cannot allow them to attempt to manipulate time again." The team prepared to depart, with Kyra's talisman as a reminder of their mission. Upon reaching the old base, they found signs of recent activity. Marks on the ground and remnants of equipment indicated that someone had been there, working in secret. Suddenly, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. It was Elias, the custodian who had sacrificed himself to stop the temporal soldiers. But something in his expression was different, more calculating and cold. "Elias, what's going on?" Einstein asked, advancing cautiously. Elias smiled, but it was not the smile of a friend. "Professor, there are things about time you still don't understand. The collective has learned from its mistakes, and this time we will not fail." Einstein and Dr. Martínez braced themselves for what could be their most dangerous confrontation yet. They knew that the real battle for time was about to begin, and that every decision they made in that moment would have profound repercussions on the temporal flow. The mission to protect time continued, and with each step, they delved deeper into a mystery that defied human comprehension. The shadow of the temporal collective loomed over them, and the fate of the past, present and future depended on their ability to face it and prevail. Einstein and Dr. Martínez looked at Elias with a mixture of surprise and distrust. "Elias," said Einstein, staying calm, "we believed you had sacrificed everything to stop Tempus. What has changed?" Elias stepped forward, his expression dark and determined. "Time is a powerful and dangerous force. After what I saw and experienced, I realized that we cannot simply protect time. We must control it to ensure a better future." Dr. Martínez stepped forward. "Elias, what you're saying is exactly what Tempus believed. Manipulating time to create a future you consider better can have disastrous consequences." Elias shook his head, his gaze filled with conviction. "You don't understand. The temporal collective has found a way to perfect time control. With its help we can prevent wars, natural disasters and human suffering. Don't you see the potential?" Einstein looked at Martínez, then at Elias, with a compassionate yet firm expression. "Elias, time must flow freely. The interventions you propose could destroy the very essence of life. There is a balance we must maintain." Elias raised his hand, revealing a small device emitting a faint blue glow. "This is the Enhanced Temporal Core. With it we can rewrite history without causing fluctuations." "It is the future, Einstein." Before they could react, Elias activated the device. A wave of energy enveloped them, and the laboratory began to fade away. Einstein and Martínez felt time distort around them, dragging them into a new reality. When the distortion stabilized, they found themselves in an altered version of the laboratory, where the temporal collective had taken control. Monitors displayed manipulated timelines, and the custodians now wore the collective's uniforms. "Welcome to the new era," said Elias, with a triumphant smile. "Here, the collective controls the flow of time. There is no more chaos, only order and progress." Einstein and Dr. Martínez exchanged glances, understanding the magnitude of what they faced. They knew they had to act quickly to reverse the changes and restore the natural temporal flow. "We need to find the Enhanced Temporal Core," whispered Martínez. "If we can deactivate it, we might be able to reverse this reality." Einstein nodded, his mind racing. "And we must find allies. Not everyone in this altered reality will agree with the collective. We need to form a resistance." As they moved cautiously through the altered laboratory, they encountered old colleagues and friends, some of whom appeared uneasy with the new order. Among them was a young scientist named Lucas, who had always admired Einstein. "Professor Einstein," said Lucas quietly, looking at them with hope. "Not all of us agree with the collective. Many believe the temporal flow should be free. How can we help?" Einstein smiled, seeing a spark of hope in Lucas's eyes. "We need access to the Enhanced Temporal Core. Do you know where it is?" Lucas nodded. "It's in the central chamber, but it's heavily guarded. We can distract the guards and create an opportunity for you to reach it." With a plan in place, Einstein, Martínez, Lucas, and the other rebels began their operation. While the rebels created distractions and diversions, Einstein and Martínez slipped toward the central chamber, where the Enhanced Temporal Core glowed on a pedestal, surrounded by an energy field. "That energy field is strong," said Martínez, studying the controls. "But if we alter the frequencies of the generators, we can deactivate it." They worked frantically, adjusting the controls and bypassing the energy field's defenses. Finally, the field flickered and disappeared. Einstein stepped forward and took the core, feeling its power in his hands. "Now we must reverse the changes," said Einstein, looking at Martínez. "But it won't be easy. We'll need to combine our knowledge and skills to stabilize the temporal flow and restore the original reality." With the enhanced temporal core in their hands, Einstein and Dr. Martínez prepared to face the greatest challenge of their lives. They knew that the real battle for time was about to begin, and that every action they took would have profound repercussions in the past, present, and future. The resistance against the Temporal Collective was intensifying, and with each step, Einstein and his team were getting closer to restoring the balance of time. But they knew that Elias and the collective wouldn't stop without a fight, and that the fate of the temporal flow depended on their courage, ingenuity, and determination. With the enhanced temporal core in their possession, Einstein and Dr. Martínez knew their mission was entering its most critical phase. Surrounded by the resistance, and with the temporal collective alerted, time was essential in both senses. "We must reach the center of the temporal flow," said Einstein, looking at Martínez and Lucas. "There, we can reverse the changes and restore balance." Lucas nodded, pointing to a holographic map of the laboratory. "The center of the temporal flow is protected by a quantum barrier. We can only access it by synchronizing our frequencies with the energy field." Einstein and Martínez worked together, adjusting their portable devices to synchronize with the quantum barrier. Meanwhile, the rebels led by Lucas held off the collective's forces, buying crucial time. Finally, they reached the heart of the laboratory, where a massive vortex of temporal energy swirled with force. It was the epicenter of the temporal flow, the point where all timelines converged and intertwined. "There it is," exclaimed Martínez. "We need to insert the core here to reverse the changes." Suddenly, a figure appeared behind them. It was Elias, accompanied by several soldiers from the collective. His expression was cold and determined. "Do you really think you can undo everything we've achieved?" said Elias, advancing cautiously. "The temporal collective has perfected time control. I won't let you ruin our work." Einstein turned, holding the core firmly. "Elias, time must be free. It's not something we should control for our own ends. The risks are too great." Elias raised his hand, signaling his soldiers to prepare. "Then it seems this will end here and now." At that moment, Lucas and the rebels appeared, confronting the collective's soldiers. A frantic battle erupted around the vortex, with shots and bursts of energy lighting up the space. Taking advantage of the distraction, Einstein and Martínez approached the vortex. With careful precision, Einstein began to insert the enhanced temporal core into the vortex's central mechanism. "Stop them!" shouted Elias, advancing furiously. But before he could reach them, a brilliant flash of light enveloped the vortex. The core activated, emitting a wave of energy that resonated through the laboratory and beyond, touching every timeline the collective had manipulated. Einstein and Martínez clung to the mechanism, feeling the powerful energy flow through them. The vortex began to stabilize, and the temporal fluctuations dissipated, restoring the natural flow of time. Elias, seeing his plan fail, fell to his knees, defeated and exhausted. The collective soldiers, disoriented by the energy wave, began to retreat, aware that the battle was lost. "We did it," whispered Martínez, scarcely believing her eyes. Einstein nodded, his gaze fixed on the now calmly spinning vortex. "The temporal flow is stabilized. We've restored balance." With the enhanced temporal core secured in place, the vortex emitted one final burst of light, solidifying the flow of time. The altered realities began to correct themselves, and the laboratory returned to its original state. The rebels cheered, celebrating their victory as Lucas helped a weary Einstein to his feet. "Professor, we did it. Time is safe." Elias, still on his knees, looked up at Einstein and Martínez. "Maybe you were right. Maybe time isn't meant to be controlled." Einstein extended a hand. Time is a constant and natural flow. We can only protect it and learn from it. Everyone deserves a second chance. Elias accepted Einstein's hand, rising slowly. Thank you, Professor. Perhaps now, together, we can ensure time follows its natural course. With the threat of the temporal collective neutralized, Einstein, Dr. Martínez, and their allies focused on consolidating the temporal anchors and repairing any residual damage to the temporal flow. The battle had been hard fought, but their success ensured that time, in all its complexity and magnificence, remained free and fluid. Einstein reflected on recent events as he gazed at the horizon, knowing that although the mission had been dangerous, the understanding of time and its importance had strengthened his conviction. With one last look at the now stabilized vortex, he knew that time would always be an enigma, an endless journey, filled with challenges and discoveries. And so, with time restored and peace re-established, Einstein and his companions prepared for whatever the future might hold, always ready to protect the flow of time and ensure its free course for all generations to come.